Got it.
Friends, awesome. Friends, welcome. Once again, here with the Equity Lens campaign with Prichard Committee. Prichard, we are an education advocacy organization focused on getting citizens galvanized around improving educational outcomes for every student across the Bluegrass. And as we talk equity, I am so happy to have Mike Hogg with me. Mike Hogg, currently Chief Operating Officer for Partners in Education. Um, Mike will talk a little bit about his role and some of the things that he's done in the past. But let me start by saying, Mike, as a former middle school social studies teacher, I am so happy to be talking with you about equity today. Mike, how about you go into your background a little bit so that folks know a little bit more about you?
Thanks, Chuck. I'm excited to be here and to be in a conversation with you around such an important topic. I'm Mike Hogg. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Partners for Education at Berea College, and I'm originally from Letcher County in the eastern part of the state, and I've gotten to be very fortunate to be a middle school science and social studies teacher in Kentucky, and I've been a principal and a school superintendent, and currently in this role where we get to have an impact on kids in all of Appalachian Kentucky. So yeah. Just happy to be here and be in conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again, Mike. So we want to talk a little bit about equity in education. So if I were to ask you, Mike, to define equity, how would you define it?
It's a bit of a long definition, but I'll try to keep it relatively short. So I believe equity fits into a larger schema, if you will, a framework of targeted universalism. And so what I mean by that is basically, I believe that there should be universal goals for kiddos. It could be all kids reading proficiently. It could be all students have opportunity for success or to lead fulfilling lives. So there are these large overarching goals that equity lives within. And what I mean by targeted universalism, there's the universal goal of, let me use reading as an example for third graders, that all third graders would read at least proficiently. And so when I think about that, and I think about all of the students that I've had the have been fortunate to serve over time, I knew that not all of my students came to me in the same spot. And so you might have a student who was from low income. You might have a student who was a student with special needs. But each student came to you needing something differently. Excuse me. And so when I think about equity, equity is really about what does that kiddo need, that young person need to be able to access that universal goal. And I sometimes use this, the example of reading and coming to it in different spaces where, maybe you're from a situation where you've been in foster care and there's been a lot of transition throughout your life. So that student is going to need a set of services to reach proficiency. My kiddos, more advantaged backgrounds, both parents with college degrees, they probably aren't going to need the same thing that the student over here with a lot of transition is going to need. But again, the universal goal is reading. So in my mind, equity means what is needed for that child to support that child to get to the universal goal. So what targeted prescription of services, maybe it's after school tutoring, maybe it's different types of reading instruction, but whatever that kiddo needs to reach the goal. And again, we think about all of our kiddos across Kentucky, all of them have different needs, but what is needed to reach that universal goal? And so that's how I frame equity is, do you have access to it? Are you getting the tools that you need to be able to access that goal? Another example might be students, ESL students, English as a second language students, they may need to be taught in a dual framework of part in their native language and part in English to be able to access that proficiency in reading. And again, it's what the kiddo needs to reach that universal goal. And the universal goal typically is something that all of us want for all of our children. And whatever those challenges are, the system supports them and gives them what they need to access that goal. So I know that's a roundabout definition with equity. It's just what you need to reach that universal goal.
That's an awesome definition, Mike, and it really does hit at a lot of components that really should fall under equity. And you actually touched on this next question, but I'd like for you to elaborate on it a little bit or maybe reiterate some of your points. Why is it that equity is so important in public education in the Bluegrass?
You know, Chuck, I think the kid, when I was a principal and people would say to me, why do you call them kiddos all the time? Why not students? Why not these other things? And there's a level of personalism that comes to me when I refer to, oh, that's my kiddo over there. Ellie and Claire are my biological kiddos, but the kiddos at Berea Community or Letcher Elementary School or wherever I was serving at the time, those were our kiddos too. And so when I think about what I wanted for and what I want for my children is it's this rich, fulfilling, meaningful servant life that gives and gives and in the community. And so when I think about that, I think about it for all of our kiddos, the kiddos of Kentucky, the kiddos of our country, of our world, as far as that goes. And so to lead that rich, fulfilling life, and I can't define it for everybody. It's not the same. For some, it's to be a doctor. For some, it's to be a teacher. For some, it's to be building the road that kept me from getting here on time. But wherever they find fulfillment and joy in their lives and in their space of giving back, the importance is really about equity is it so those kiddos can have that. I think we have the resources to do it in our state. So I think the why, the important is because we owe the children of our state, the future leaders of our state, the folks who will be taking care of us as we age and things like that. We owe them that opportunity, all of them, for that opportunity to lead rich, fulfilling lives. And there are systemic things that we can do to help build that into place. And part of it is recognizing the individual needs of children and recognizing that the students who live in Louisville or Lexington in a more urban area, or the kiddos who live in Letcher County and the head of Judy Branch, where I'm from, those kids all have the same dreams, the same powerful dreams to live rich, fulfilling lives. And so the equity piece is about creating, maybe I'm a little idealistic here, but this space where everyone is well, where there's this beloved community and we're all in this wellness and we're all living rich, fulfilled lives. And our systems are supporting access. So that may be a little dreamy, but yeah, that's to me, that's the heart of the importance of it, is that piece.
I loved hearing you use the term kiddos because for close to 2 decades in the multiple roles I've served, they've always been my kiddos. And I think that it really comes from that same sentiment of kind of looking at everyone as your own, right? And as we kind of think about the conversation around equity, based on your role, based on where you are, there are going to be different challenges. As you think about equity in public education, what are some of the challenges that you recognize in terms of making sure that we achieve those equity outcomes in public education in Kentucky?
Yeah. I think that maybe the largest challenge or obstacle or opportunity is around scarcity. That we hold such a scarcity mentality that if someone got more than I got, then that was unfair. And giving people what they need is fair. My kiddos didn't need after-school tutoring, and I know I'm fortunate in that space, and I know that there are kiddos with disabilities. There are kiddos from lots of different backgrounds and things. But at the same time, and the same time is the scarcity mentality keeps us from working together and sharing resources and allocating them to the places where they need to be allocated. Our own SEEK formula for funding schools in the state of Kentucky recognizes that special needs kiddos and kiddos from low-income homes are probably going to need a little more resources to reach the standards that the Kentucky Board of Education and the Kentucky legislature have set for our children. So there's some equity that's baked into that SEEK formula. There are glimpses of it. But even in that, and while there's some add-on for disability and some add-on for at risk and things like that, it's a start, but it's not enough. And the argument that I sometimes hear is, well, that won't be fair. My argument is, it is fair to give kiddos what they need to be able to access that universal goal. So if we have to spend an extra $1,000 on someone's child because they need that to be able to access success or proficiency or whatever the goal is, it's okay, because all of us will win. There's actually abundance. And, you know, I think in the pandemic, one of my ahas, there've been a lot of sadness. So please don't get me wrong. There's been a lot of death, a lot of illness and things. But there's also been some beautiful snippets of human nature where folks have reached out to help each other, and they've been able to turn to their neighbor and help a neighbor in a way. And, you know, I don't think other people in that street are going, doggone, I didn't get that kind of love. You know, they say, no, Ms. Jones needed that at that time, you know, whatever the case may be. So there were these glimpses of abundance, that there's an abundance of love, if you will. We don't worry about, oh, we're going to run out of love. I don't think we'll run out of love. And so I think the challenge that I see, number one, is the scarcity mentality. And it lives on so many levels, because what it does is it creates tribalism, where we begin to marginalize each other, because you're in that group and I'm in this group and so-and-so's in this group. And so we get polarized, and ultimately everybody loses, because we're all trying to make sure we got 50 cents. I didn't need 50 cents, but my brother needed $1, you know, to be able to get through that day and to be able to access. So yeah, I think that the scarcity mentality, the scarcity frame, that we're told there isn't enough to go around, I disagree. I think there is enough to go around if we distribute it equitably based on need. And so the challenge there is to think differently and to be able to communicate differently in what's needed. So that's where I see probably the largest challenge to holding the equity frame is the scarcity mentality.
Mike, thank you so much for a few minutes and a great conversation around equity and education in Kentucky. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you, Mike Hogg.
Thanks a lot, Chaka. Anytime.